So today we're going to talk about the Fox Sport Network lawsuit. And we're going to talk about the facts. I mean, this thing really rivals a daytime soap opera. Days of Our Lives, As the World Turns, all of them. It rivals the reading of this lawsuit. It's a full 42 pages. I read it. And there's been a lot of narratives being put out about Joy Taylor that were not in that lawsuit. I mean, they're coming out with these things about freak-offs and who she slept with and just a lot of people feasting on the Joy Taylor portion of this lawsuit while also really ignoring the real meat of the lawsuit was that the hairstylist said that she was being sexually harassed. So, but like I said, they want to feast off Joy Taylor. Why, I don't know. But let's take a listen to this fellow and see what he has to say about it.
To advance her career.
That shit is
you probably
annoying,
recognize
bro.
Joy Taylor back.
That shit's so annoying, dog. That shit is. I gotta get on a rant, bro. That shit is so annoying to me. It's so annoying to me when out here do the most for attention, which my hatred, my hostility, my animosity should be directed towards the men, though, because the only reason why they do all that shit, because these goofies out here be giving these bitches all the fucking attention, bro. You know what I'm saying? I can't stand that shit. Bitches out here doing the most retarded shit, most degenerate shit, the most low IQ, low vibrational shit. And they get all the fucking views, all the fucking likes, all the goddamn comments, all the fucking validation from these goofy ass men, bro. That's why they keep doing this shit, dog. I hate it. I can't stand this shit.
Yo, he needs, I try not to laugh. Every time I hear it, I laugh. He needs some validation and he needs some likes because, clearly Joy is, being feminine and he can't stand it. He said he can't stand it. I hate it. I mean, does he know how he sounds? Somebody get your boy because he doing too much out here.
Everything he says is angry. He's an angry man. Man, sit your dumb ass down and shut up.
This is so
Okay, let's get to it. Welcome to Davis Sports Report. Please go ahead and hit that like button. We're going to have a good time today. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. So there have been some content creators that have, tried to hold Skip Bayless accountable for the allegations. These are all allegations. And also to kind of point out that this Joy Taylor piece doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So before we get into the lawsuit itself, let's hear what TYT had to say about it.
There are people who are saying, are just, I guess, whatever. They're just having too much fun or way too fixated on the idea that a woman might use her own sexuality in order to further her career. Here's what I'll say about all of that, whether it's true or it's not. Joy Taylor, in my opinion, is actually good. She's actually good at what she does over there. She actually does a lot of the homework. She gives pretty informed. I know on football, she is really freaking good. She's not, and again, this isn't an industry, by the way, where a lot of the times the women that are on TV tend to be like a little bit more than window dressing.
First, let's start off with talking about who the plaintiff and the defendants are. The plaintiff is going to be Nosheen Faraj. She is the hairstylist for a lot of the on-air staff. She was for Joy Taylor for sure, for Skip Bayless, and some of the others that will be mentioned in the lawsuit. And the defendants are Fox Sports Corporation, so the Fox Sports brand, along with Charlie Dixon, who I believe is the CEO, Skip Bayless, who, of course, is an on-air talent, and Joy Taylor, who is an on-air talent, also an individual, and does 1 through 25 inclusive. So those are the people that are being sued. A defendant means a person or group against whom a criminal or civil action is brought, someone who is being sued or accused of committing a crime. So we're going to keep that in mind as we look at who the defendants are and what she is alleging they are doing. As for the complaint, there is a class action complaint: failure to pay minimum wage, failure to pay overtime wages, failure to reimburse business expenses, failure to pay all wages upon separation, failure to furnish accurate itemized wages statement, unfair, unlawful, or fraudulent business practices. For the individual complaint, it's sexual battery, hostile work environment, sex and gender, hostile work environment, race, national origin, hostile work environment, disability, failure to prevent harassment, negligent supervision, hiring and retention, retaliation, and wrongful termination. Okay, so then they go into what is called the factual background. For Exhibit A, it's Miss Faraji is hired to work at Fox. It basically says in 2003 she worked for a hair salon where she would go out with her coworker to do the hair of some of the executives at Fox. And eventually she started going by herself to do that hair. And by 2012, she was hired on part-time as recommended. She was recommended to be hired by the makeup artist of those executives, not by Joy Taylor. I know that's out there that people are saying Joy recommended her for the job. That was not the case. She was there well before Joy Taylor was there. So that's how, when she came on in 2012. In 2019, she found out that she should have gotten some type of a stipend for bringing her own tools to work. So she does have a complaint about that. She's saying that also her supervisor named Gina Peretti, let's put a pin in that name, Gina Peretti, required her to be a barber in addition to a stylist. So she said she went to her union on it, and they told her that Miss Peretti was known to be difficult, so just go ahead and comply with her and do the job. So Exhibit B, Mr. Dixon gives Miss Taylor Undisputed, that's the TV show, as a reward for having. It kind of goes on to tell that they pretty much had a friendship. That Miss Taylor, who was Joy Taylor, would invite Miss Faraji to dinner with her and out for drinks. While there, sometimes Mr. Dixon, who is the executive, would be at these restaurants and buy the ladies drinks. And then in 2016, the new show came about that Skip disclosed to Miss Faraji that he did not want Miss Taylor on the show, but Mr. Dixon was adamant that Miss Taylor should star. At first, Mr. Dixon arranged a dinner between Mr. Bayless and Miss Taylor, where she arrived in provocative clothing and acted in a provocative manner. When that did not change Mr. Bayless's opinion of Miss Taylor, Mr. Dixon asked him to approve of her as a favor to him. Reluctantly, Mr. Bayless agreed to do so as a favor to his friend. Guys, this is where I kind of get lost in the weeds just a bit because, one, I'm not exactly sure what this has to do with a harassment lawsuit or with a wages lawsuit. I'm a bit lost on this part. It also states, around August 2016, Ms. Faraji attended a dinner with Ms. Taylor and her husband and Mr. Dixon and his wife. During the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband became suspicious that Ms. Taylor and Mr. Dixon were having an appropriate relationship. Soon after the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband found evidence of the inappropriate relationship and divorced Ms. Taylor. How can she know that? For me, it's just like, where's the proof? I don't think I've seen anywhere in their divorce or anything related to their divorce, actual divorce, not hearsay, that states that this is why they got divorced. So she goes on to say that that basically she saw flirtatious behavior, and that is why she assumed that they were in an inappropriate relationship. A bit much. Then going on to point C, Mr. Dixon gropes Ms. Faraji after putting her on Undisputed. So in 2017, it says Miss Taylor had a birthday party at Pearl's rooftop in West Hollywood. Miss Faraji and other Fox employees who were invited attended as it was a part of their job duties to appease talent, and a birthday party is an important event. As usual, Mr. Dixon was heavily drinking, buying drinks for everyone on a Fox credit card, and blustering that everything purchased was on Fox's dime. As Miss Faraji was standing near the bar facing the crowd, Mr. Dixon approached her. He asked for the bartender for a drink and then placed his arm on Mrs. Faraji's lower back. He asked how she was doing, if she was having fun, and if she wanted a tequila shot. Miss Faraji felt very uncomfortable by his unsolicited touching and responded, "No, thank you." Mr. Dixon then moved his hand lower and started rubbing her body and grabbing her buttocks. Miss Faraji was mortified but quickly thought to fake an incoming call to escape from the situation. Miss Faraji did not know who to turn to, but as she knew Miss Taylor was sleeping with Mr. Dixon, she turned to her. Surprisingly, Miss Taylor responded to get over it and explained that she herself only had her job because of Mr. Dixon, and that Miss Faraji only had her job because of Miss Taylor requested her. She warned that Mr. Dixon could take both away. So Miss Faraji was terrified and then turned to her coworker, Anonymous, to discuss the situation. Anonymous responded that Mr. Dixon was disgusting, that the entire situation was sick, but that it wasn't shocking given Fox's culture, and that Miss Faraji should remain quiet if she wanted to keep her job. Now, okay, right here, coworker Anonymous told her the exact same thing that Joy Taylor told her. Yet, Anonymous is not listed as a defendant. Okay? I'm just going to keep that there. Okay? She said that Miss Faraji should remain quiet if she wants to keep her job. As a single mother who needed the job to support her son, Miss Faraji had no choice but to remain silent. Okay, Part D says Mr. Dixon gets rid of female talent member for refusing to have sex with him. Several years into Mrs. Faraji's tenure at Fox, a female talent member, Anonymous, hired Miss Faraji to do her hair at her house for an award show. Anonymous asked that Miss Faraji meet her for lunch first. There, Anonymous told Miss Faraji that she would no longer be with Fox, as Mr. Dixon told her that she would need to have sex with him if she wanted to renew her contract, but she had refused. Anonymous further conveyed that Mr. Dixon was doing this to other women talent. She should warn Miss Taylor to be careful, and a talk show host had recently reported Mr. Dixon. Following the lunch, Miss Faraji called Miss Taylor to convey what Anonymous had stated. Miss Taylor responded, "No one gives an F about Anonymous or the talk show host who had reported Mr. Dixon." Miss Faraji later observed that Miss Taylor's remarks appeared accurate and no actions were taken to address the concerns raised. If it was not already apparent, it became even more clear to Fox that Fox enables high-ranking individuals to abuse their authority, exerting undue control over female talent and employees. Now, mind you, I'm gonna stop reading right here and remind you guys that Taylor and Faraji were actually very good friends that hung out a lot. So her using the F-bomb, it's her talking to a friend. She was saying nobody gives an F about what this other person was saying. Fear permeated the workplace as stories of mistreatment circulated. So that's all in D. Number E is Mr. Bayless begins to give Miss Faraji lingering hugs and kisses on the cheek while putting his body against hers and pressing against her breasts. Okay, and after the reporting by talk show host fell on deaf ears, Mr. Bayless began requesting that Miss Faraji give him a haircut once a week in the makeup room. Miss Faraji did as she was told, as Miss Parodi required Miss Faraji to give haircuts to talent. Initially, during the haircuts, Mr. Bayless would discuss his life, his work at Fox, and other innocuous matters. However, soon after the weekly haircut started, Mr. Bayless began finding excuses to touch Miss Faraji. He would give her lingering hugs after each haircut, putting his body against her own, pressing against her breast. He then began to kiss her on her cheeks. Miss Faraji was uncomfortable by physical contact and would make excuses to leave right after the haircuts, saying, "I need to pick up my son from school." In approximately summer 2017, Miss Faraji was giving Mr. Bayless a haircut. He told her that she was voluptuous. As English is her second language, she was not familiar with the words, so she asked around, and coworkers told her, and she was mortified. Miss Faraji was terrified, then turned to her coworkers to discuss the situation. The two decided that because Mr. Bayless was a powerful man and Fox protected powerful men, Mr. Dixon's actions were openly known but ignored. It would only be to her detriment to report the issue. In other words, they told her the same thing Joy told her. Okay. The two decided that Miss Faraji needed to be kind towards Mr. Bayless or risk her job. As a single mother, she relied on her job to support her son. Okay, and then in F, Miss Faraji has her hours cut after going on medical leave. So it says in 2017 she had some medical leave, and Miss Parodi had promised her shift to someone else. Again, guys, Miss Parodi keeps coming up, yet Miss Parodi is not a defendant. I am not quite understanding. But and Miss Parodi is her supervisor, mind you, okay? On January 5th, 2018, Miss Parodi called Miss Faraji into her office. When Miss Faraji arrived, an individual from Human Resources was present, and Miss Parodi was falsely explaining that Miss Faraji did not want her full-time schedule. Miss Faraji grew upset, explained that she did want her full-time schedule, and further explained that Miss Parodi had been treating her poorly for years. Yet she's not in the... Okay. I don't know how many times I got to say that. So it says in G, she did remain on Undisputed and is asked to also join the herd, so the Colin Cowherd show, because Joy did move from Undisputed over to the Colin, doing with Colin. She said nothing but glowing things about Colin Cowherd. That was on G. And then on H, Mr. Diaz racially and actually harassed Miss Faraji. So Mr. Diaz is the individual that puts the microphones on the talent, says that he mocked her pronunciation of English words and actualized the way she was eating fruit. Miss Faraji did not respond. She just kept her eyes glued on the monitor playing Undisputed. Miss Parodi was present and did not do anything. Okay. I'm going to skip over this. I'm going to go to I. Okay, going on to section I. Miss Taylor again uses her actuality to get on a show. In approximately February 2020, Miss Taylor asked Miss Faraji to meet her for lunch in Beverly Hills. When Miss Faraji arrived, she found Miss Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho. Mr. Acho. Miss Faraji did not know Mr. Acho, but could tell that the two were romantically involved, because she can tell these things, right? Alrighty. A few months after meeting Mr. Acho at lunch, Miss Faraji noticed him in the hallway while at work. Miss Faraji later asked Miss Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked for Fox. Miss Taylor confirmed and explained she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show Speak for Yourself. Miss Faraji became alarmed and warned Miss Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Miss Taylor told her not to worry about it. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plans to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. In approximately September 2022, Miss Taylor started to work on Speak. Miss Taylor requested Miss Faraji to do her hair. Man, if that's true, which all of this is allegations, I can't imagine. But who knows? Who knows, right? Okay, for J, Miss Faraji is targeted because of her ethnicity. So she's saying in approximately 2020, Jane Doe, Miss M, an employee at Fox, began demonstrating erratic behavior. One night at an informal dinner at Maestro's Steakhouse, she grew irrationally enraged with Miss Faraji and screamed, "F you Persian B." The dinner ended after Miss M broke a glass and threatened to harm herself. Following the dinner, Miss Faraji, coworker Anonymous, who is black, reported the incident to Human Resources, explaining that she would not be okay with someone calling her a black bee. Anonymous also had Ms. Faraji report the incident to Ms. Parodi. Despite these reports supposedly being anonymous, Ms. M learned of the report and became increasingly unstable towards Ms. Faraji. Every single morning, Ms. M would scream and throw things at Ms. Faraji. Approximately 6 months later, Ms. Faraji told Human Resources that she believed her life was in danger. Human Resources responded that Ms. Faraji should just leave the workplace when Ms. M was having an episode. After approximately a year and a half, Ms. M was fired. Ms. M, ex-boyfriend, a producer at Fox, shared that Human Resources gave Ms. M a large amount of money in severance. Ms. Faraji wondered why Fox rewarded her bully with money. Okay, and then on K, Ms. Faraji believes she has cancer and conveys this to Mr. Bayless in an attempt to stop his advances, only to have him offer her $1.5 million to have sex. Over the years, Mr. Bayless continued to make advances at Ms. Faraji, lingering hugs, kisses on the cheek, and inappropriate comments that he could change her life if she acquiesced to have sex. Ms. Faraji would always make an excuse regarding her son, politely change the subject, or make a joke. Anything to keep Mr. Bayless appeased and her job safe. In July 2021, Ms. Faraji developed issues with her left ovary and was advised it could be cancer. With a fourth biopsy scheduled, she explained her situation to Mr. Bayless, hoping that he would take pity on her and cease his advances. Instead, Mr. Bayless told her that he wanted to be with her. Ms. Faraji panicked and began rambling that there were cameras everywhere and that she had a child and that she does not want him. Mr. Bayless then grabbed her hand, began kissing them, and offered her $1.5 million to have sex. Ms. Faraji made an excuse to leave. Approximately 1 week later, Mr. Bayless made another advance at Ms. Faraji. Ms. Faraji responded, "Skip, stop, you have a wife." Mr. Bayless responded, "Aren't you Muslim? Doesn't your dad have 3 or 4 wives?" Listen, I told y'all this was wild. Okay. Ms. Faraji responded that her father was dead, and when Mr. Bayless looked taken back, she made an excuse to leave. Bullet L is quite long, but Ms. Faraji's job is threatened because she does not sleep with Mr. Bayless. I'm going to summarize this one. Basically, it's some text messages going back and forth between Skip and her, I guess in 2022, where Skip was saying he didn't want his haircut, kind of was being standoffish with her because Skip felt like she was sleeping with Mr. Sharp. That would be Shannon Sharp, his co-host on the show. Ms. Faraji said she denied sleeping with Mr. Sharp. And Skip told her that basically because of their energy, the flirtatious whatever, that he feels like she is sleeping with him. It kind of got a little heated. She told him she could respond however she wanted. And Mr. Bayless then angrily stated that he heard her talk to Mr. Sharp about her vajayjay. Ms. Faraji knew this to be untrue and was embarrassed and angry. Ms. Faraji responded that even if she had been dating Mr. Sharp, which she wasn't, it shouldn't matter at all because she only had a professional relationship with Mr. Bayless. So it's okay for you. Huh. Okay. Got it. And it says on April 2022, she arrived in the makeup room, turned on a recording device. Skip came in and he said, "This room is bugged." She responded by reiterating that being polite to Mr. Sharp is part of her job. She said, Skip said, bull S, I'm calling bull S on you." Then he told her he has love for her and that he has for 6 years and that she hurt him and she is ruining this. Ms. Faraji again responded that she must be polite to all talent. Mr. Bayless then implied that if he stopped requesting her, it would affect her job. Ms. Faraji responded that she is scheduled to work every morning from 5:45 a.m. If he would like to get his hair done, he is welcome to sit in her chair. Mr. Bayless continued to threaten her job. Ms. Faraji knew that he was trying to pressure her into having sex with him, but she kept repeating that she was a professional that had to be kind to all talent. On April 2022, Mr. Bayless asked if Ms. Faraji would come to his home to color his hair, a side job that Ms. Faraji previously would partake in when Mr. Bayless's wife was home. On this occasion, with her therapist's help, she conveyed that she would no longer be going to his home. The following week, Mr. Bayless arrived in the makeup room as if their conversation never happened, but Ms. Faraji remained on edge. Ms. Faraji had worsening nightmares regarding the incident that took place with Mr. Bayless. Ms. Faraji's therapist started using eye movement desensitization and reprocessing to talk through her interactions with Mr. Bayless. That's all for L. And then for M, she says she's targeted because of her ethnicity and disability. So in October 2021, Ms. Faraji's friendship with Ms. Taylor ended. Ms. Taylor then began insulting Ms. Faraji on a personal and professional level. In early 2023, that's 2 years, almost 2 years later, the treatment reached a breaking point as Ms. Taylor began openly mocking Ms. Faraji's English, exclaiming that she could not understand Ms. Faraji's accent and complaining about Ms. Faraji's humming, an involuntary subconscious coping mechanism for her diagnosed PTSD. So that's where the disability comes in. Ms. Taylor then began stating that she needed a black hairstylist. Ms. Faraji and her co-workers who noticed the harsh interactions hoped that Fox could see through the facade, as Ms. Faraji had been doing Ms. Taylor's hair for approximately 7 years and at Ms. Taylor's own request without any complaints, and had been working on textured hair for decades. Here's what I'm going to say. I know for me, I'm very close with my hairstylist, always has been. You form a bond. If there's some beef there, I'm not going to go back to that hairstylist. It's just not going to happen. So if there was some beef there between the two of them, I do understand why Joy wanted a different hairstylist, and it didn't have to mean that she was trying to get this woman fired. That's just my take on it. In June 2023, diary entries. She started doing diary entries, and she's began acting like, because I'm not black, I'm stupid. She keeps saying black girls' hair should be done like this, not how you do it. I've been doing her hair for 7 years. She keeps making me feel that my English is not good. She keeps making comments like, oh, white girls are dumb. Oh, that's harsh. That's harsh if she said that. On June 14, 2023, Ms. Faraji reported the incident to Ms. Parodi. Ms. Faraji's June 14, 2023 diary entry states, by now it has been 7 days that the company knows about this racism and discrimination towards me. I told my boss, Gina. I told Cindy all about it. So Gina and Cindy. And neither one of them did anything. Okay. On June 16th, Ms. Parodi pulled Ms. Faraji into her office and asked if she wanted to leave speak. Ms. Faraji explained that she wanted to work. Ms. Parodi told Ms. Faraji that she should just leave the room when Ms. Taylor was acting out. Ms. Faraji noticed that this was a pattern. When Ms. M bullied Ms. Faraji, Human Resources told her to leave the room. And now when Ms. Taylor bullied Ms. Faraji, Ms. Parodi again told her to leave the room. Ms. Faraji's June 16, 2023 diary entry states, I'm very disappointed in how Fox operates racism and bullying. Instead of getting rid of the bully, they want to get rid of the victim. Wow. On June 21, 2023, Ms. Parodi called Ms. Faraji into her office. Ms. Parodi explained that while Ms. Faraji should still go in every morning and set up for hair, Ms. Taylor no longer needed her as a hairstylist. Ms. Parodi explained that Ms. Faraji was to work from 5 a.m. to 9 and then go home. So she still kept her job, still getting paid. Okay. When Ms. Faraji asked about touch-ups, Ms. Parodi stated that she had spoken to all the talent on the show and no one needed touch-ups. Ms. Faraji then asked if she did something wrong. Ms. Parodi responded, you remind me of my dog, and when I take my dog out, he barks at bigger dogs. That's like you. Ms. Faraji left the room and cried. To call someone a dog is one of the most offensive insults in Persian culture. Yet, Ms. Parodi is not one of the defendants. It is just amazing to me. Amazing. All right. let's see. This isn't important. She hired some black hairstylist. And Miss Faraji came concerned about her job. So that's about it on that one. Next will be in. So she said she became concerned about her job in 2023. In mid-June 2023, Anna Drucker, Fox Sports Vice President of Employee Relations, asked Ms. Faraji for a meeting. In that meeting, she admitted that the two were in a... she told Human Resources that Joy and Mr. Acho were in a actual relationship, but didn't think they would be any harm. She also had a meeting with Miss Doe, told her that there have been complaints of her humming. Let's see, Miss Doe thanked Miss Faraji for the information, abruptly changed the conversation, and quickly asked whether she had made public comments regarding Mr. Dixon and Miss Taylor having SEX. Miss Faraji became very scared. She's saying that this is why she got fired, was because she was saying that. In 2023, also, Ms. Perotti told approximately 8 of Ms. Faraji's coworkers to not associate with Ms. Faraji as she had a pending case with Human Resources. Again, with Ms. Perotti. All right, guys. That's kind of, the point I wanted to make. Oh, wait. Point O. Point O. Ms. Faraji learns that Mr. Dixon wants her fired. That's point O. And then I believe she will support it. Fox is supporting people like Charlie and Skip. It says Ms. Faraji, in 2024, she was fired. On approximately June 24th, a talent member disclosed to Ms. Faraji that Undisputed was going to be canceled and that Mr. Bayless was going to be fired. Ms. Faraji grew intermittently anxious that Mr. Dixon was trying to get her fired. Later that week, on Monday, Ms. Faraji gave Mr. Bayless a haircut. It says some things happened, just conversations. He offered her the $1.5 million again. On August 2024, Undisputed was canceled. Mr. Bayless was fired and Ms. Faraji was taken off schedule. So both of them are now fired. Ms. Perotti told Ms. Faraji that there was no longer a need for her. That same day, Mr. Bayless asked Ms. Faraji to walk him to his car on his way out. Ms. Faraji felt that she had no choice but to walk him to his car. Why? He's fired. You're fired. Why did you feel like you had no other choice? That is so confusing. Unless I'm going out there to bop him across his head, I see no reason to walk him to his car. You no longer work for him. He's no longer working for Fox. I don't understand. Oh, my goodness. At any rate, she says that Skip Bayless told her that Charlie is effed. Yeah. So that's kind of all, yeah. On August 5th, Ms. Faraji was asked to give Mr. Silverman a haircut in the same manner in the past 7 days. She reached out to Fox to make sure. So then on R, Ms. Faraji's life after working with defendants. So on R, Mr. Faraji's life after working for defendants. For weeks after being terminated, Ms. Faraji remained conflicted as to her next steps. She remained quiet about her experience at Fox as she was fearful, believing that Mr. Dixon might hire someone to take her out should she go public. After many therapy sessions, Ms. Faraji has concluded that she never wants to work with Mr. Bayless again, feels ashamed for working with him for so many years, and is able to better control intrusive thoughts of Mr. Dixon hurting her again. In response to her feeling of shame, embarrassment, and fear, her therapist told her that she had only been doing what she thought she needed to do to survive. At this point, Ms. Faraji seeks justice. She knows that Mr. Dixon used his position of power to coerce women into having sex with him and used it as a justification to grope Ms. Faraji. She knows that Mr. Dixon did not immediately fire her after Ms. Taylor and Ms. Faraji had a falling out, only to appease Mr. Bayless by providing him with a plaything. Despite Ms. Faraji being an excellent hairdresser and continuously being requested by talent, she was shrunken down to how much she could appease Mr. Bayless, and once Mr. Bayless was gone, so was her job. To date, talent continues to ask for Ms. Faraji at Fox, including Mr. Cowherd, who posted a poll on the Twitter page at Cowherd on December 18, 2024, asking if he should get a haircut, with 63.2 responding that he should. Ms. Faraji also continues to be requested by and works for high-profile clients who do not abuse her. Following Ms. Faraji's departure from Fox, Mr. Bayless began featuring his wife on his podcast. On Information and Belief, he changed the cell phone number he had maintained for many years, presumably in the hopes of removing and deleting incriminating messages, presumably after receiving notice of this impeding lawsuit from Fox. And that's about it, guys. I told y'all, she is very good hairstylist. I think my point here is she went through all of that to talk about the harassment. Did not bring up her own supervisor, but threw Joy's business all out there for the savages to feast on. So it seems to me like a friend scorned, and if she never gets a penny out of Joy Taylor, not even a cent, the damage that she's done is worth so much more, right, than the $1.5 million. She has really done damage to this woman's reputation. And for me, I feel like it's unfairly, but you guys let me know what you think. It doesn't seem like Joy's name should have been named as a defendant if she was not also going to name the other people that bullied her or her supervisor, the sound guy, all of those people. If you're going to name Joy, then you need to name all of them. And if you're not going to, then clearly you were just dragging this woman's name through the mud. So I guess congratulations to you. I'm assuming that's really what you wanted at the end of the day. So you got what you wanted. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Just let me know what you guys think. The rest of it is kind of based on her class action, where she doesn't name any defendants here in this portion of it. Just Fox, right? No names of individuals or anything like that. It's okay. Y'all let me know what you think. Do you think it was right for her to put a former friend of hers' business out there in that manner? And do you think that the criticism that Joy Taylor is getting is warranted? I have my feelings, but I would love to know yours. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.